Everything you are about to hear in this video is just my personal opinion, and unlike a session of question time, it shouldn't be taken too seriously, because at the end of the day this is just one person making a case study which probably won't be adopted by anyone with any actual influence. So try not to get too caught up. In my last video, I talked about how Need for Speed, the best-selling racing game series of all time, has been put on hold by its publisher, Electronic Arts, in favour of the first-person shooter series Battlefield. Now, this isn't a follow-up video by any means, so if you stumbled upon my channel, then no need to go and watch that one in order to understand what the hell is going on. This video is instead going to focus on what could be next for Need for Speed, because in recent days, weeks, months, hell, even years, a lot of people have been putting forward suggestions as to what the series should do in order to stay relevant and ahead of its rivals. Now, I'm not an expert in game design, hell, I'm not that great of an artist, nor do I wish to pretend that I speak on behalf of all Need for Speed fans. But here are a few thoughts of my own which, if implemented properly, could help breathe new life into a 30-year-old racing franchise and stop it from devolving into whatever Unbound was. One thing I've noticed with some of the more recent Need for Speed games is how the main characters, the good guys, keep framing street racing and dangerous driving as a justifiable act, how it's art, and that the police should go after real criminals. Are you taking the piss, writers? Most Wanted 05, Carbon, and even Undercover and Hot Pursuit 2010 to an extent, didn't try to frame dangerous driving and street racing in the same light. They understood that what you were doing was illegal. Hell, you could cause serious damage and cost the State Department a hell of a lot of cash, and it was fun. It also raised the stakes and made the player a bigger target for the cops. Street racing is not something which is painted in a positive light today, although I'd be lying if I said everyone involved with it is a questionable figure. So the fact that Need for Speed's writers have been trying to push an agenda within this environment, one which is antithetical and frankly tone deaf, really hasn't done the stories many favours. Not that any of the last 5 entries have had a compelling story to speak of. If Need for Speed really wants to continue down this path, they need to ensure the characters care about street racing and cars, but not get too carried away. A single line of dialogue, or two, can be critical to keep players engaged. So you want to stay in this race for as long as possible? Then you got to accept that sooner or later the cops will be out there, waiting for you. They'll be ready to start chasing your ass with all the cavalry at their disposal if they get a tip-off. So be prepared, don't get lazy, and make sure you have the nerves to keep on going. Otherwise you'll be wasting your days behind bars and there won't be a guardian angel coming at the 11th hour. You're a street racer. Behave like one. Drive like one. Okay, I admit that's not perfect and there's definitely room for improvement, but something like this shows that street racing is a dangerous sport, not a Saturday morning match with biscuits and drinks on the side. Oh, and Need for Speed needs better writers in general because the last 2 games have had some rather cringe dialogue pop up here and there. Hell, it was all over the place in Unbound. But there are videos which are much better at documenting such evidence when EA is eventually taken to court during their Chapter 11 bankruptcy proceedings, which, given their latest financial results, may be in the next few years or so. In an era where Forza Horizon, The Crew, and even Gran Turismo are chock full of rides numbering into the hundreds, Need for Speed has for the most part kept its car numbers below 100. Most Wanted 05 has around 40 to 50 cars, Hot Pursuit 2010 has around 70, and so does Most Wanted 2012. Rivals and the 2015 reboot had a smaller car list with 58 and 56 cars available to choose from respectively. Please note that the total number of cars listed for all these games includes all vehicles released as part of post-launch DLC, as well as cars included as part of certain limited edition copies of Need for Speed games released. Additionally, these numbers do not include duplicates of models, whether that's due to them being available either as a police variant or with a customized look. However, it is possible that my maths may be imperfect, so feel free to correct me in the comments. Payback then raised those numbers back up into the 70s before Need for Speed Heat and Unbound pushed the total number of cars available past 100 for the first time in the series' history. More cars does not necessarily result in a better game. Some vehicles are included twice, once as a hardtop, the other as a convertible, like here. Now, this isn't a new trend by all accounts. Hopsuit 2010 was guilty of doing the same thing, and don't get me started on rivals. But since when has Need for Speed been criticised for having a small car list? Keeping the numbers down makes the cars chosen feel more special, like they've been selected for a special purpose. I'm not saying I don't want a diverse car range, of course I do. I think the best way of demonstrating what I'm trying to say here is to take a look at Need for Speed 2015. This game's car list, for me, is most successful at being diverse, yet not overcrowded. It's not perfect, there are a handful of brands missing such as Aston Martin and Jaguar, which could have done with at least one model being included post-launch to bolster the sports car ranks, and maybe there could be one or two more models from Mercedes and Mitsubishi to keep the customization fans busy. But even then, the list would still be pretty compact. And before people start claiming, yeah, but having more cars means more choice, let me say this. A game like the Crew Motorfest or Forza Horizon 5 may have over 600 or even over 700 cars, but you're not going to use all of them. You'll probably have around 10 to 20 vehicles tuned to your specific specifications. So why have all those extra vehicles if they're not going to be used in the first place? One of the biggest criticisms I have with Need for Speed Unbound is that the races and progression feels a bit repetitive and grindy. You do a few day races, maybe a couple of drop-offs, potentially deal with the cops for a bit, and then pretty much repeat that at night. For 4 whole weeks. And that's pretty repetitive. Criterion's first Need for Speed game, Hopsuit, had a much better career structure. You started out doing races in lower class vehicles, but every now and then you had the opportunity to test drive some higher spec rides such as the McLaren F1. Other races focused on 2 vehicles going head to head, or your options were limited to that of a single brand, like Porsche. As a result, you never stayed driving just the 1 or 2 cars that were best suited to your tastes. You were getting the opportunity to experience a wider range of models, which you didn't even have to pay in-game currency to buy. You just needed to get a certain amount of bounty. Now, Unbound does have some variety, yes, namely with its deliveries, which one could argue serve as test drives, but it is lacking compared to Hopsuit. The career needs to be designed in a way that allows players to try out other rides as frequently as possible, as well as keep them driving lower spec models. Maybe shoehorn in a few lower class races here and there as the campaign progresses, just so we know those slower rides don't have to gather dust in your garage. Oh, and get rid of the letter grade / number level performance system and just use Hopsuit's take where cars are simply classified by performance tiers. It wasn't that much of an issue for me in Heat, but in Unbound it can be annoying. Going back to Need for Speed 2015, the handling model there simply didn't match up with the map. If Need for Speed is destined to keep brake to drift as a default option, the map needs to be wider and bigger to accommodate it. You can't have narrow streets everywhere and a handling model where one tap of the brake pedal sends you spinning off the road and into a crowd of people. And before fans say, well, yes, but you can tweak the handling so brake to drift is turned off, it needs to be fixed. Like, now. Get rid of health bars, they add nothing to the experience, but keep gas stations around for the sake of fixing your ride up. Wait a second, I've just thought of something. What if the more damage you sustain during a session, the greater the impact that has on your car's performance? Later gear shifts, less boost, less power output, and a less stable ride. That way, you don't have to worry about your car being wrecked, but rather whether the police can box you in or corner you into a position where you simply cannot escape because your car doesn't have enough power or performance to do so. That would create a greater sense of tension for the player. And speaking of tension, if you don't have any health bars, then how can the cops bust you? Well, here's a thought. Why not increase the number of police units available to deploy during a chase and make them adaptable to your actions? Look at Most Wanted 05, the Need for Speed game which everyone agrees has pretty much the best cops. That game threw police units at you left, right and centre, but they were organised. They set up roadblocks and they were moving to intercept constantly to box you in, like normal police do when chasing a stolen car, a procedure known as Tactical Pursuit and Containment, or TPAC. And again, no need to worry about your health bar. Forza Horizon doesn't have health bars and nobody has moaned about such an absence there. Also, depending on your car's performance tier, keep the cops at that same level. Hot Pursuit 2010 didn't throw Bugatti Veyron Interceptor units at you whilst you were still driving a Mazda RX-8. There were Ford Crown Victorias, Nissan 370Zs, and Subaru Imprezas, all of which had a similar performance level. Unless you really know what you're doing, driving a Tier B Ford Mustang and attempting to escape from undercover Camaros at Heat 5 is not fun. The system needs to be changed so that cops only get tougher and faster as your vehicle's performance does. That way, it's fairer ground. I think this one can speak for itself.